All right, hello and welcome. Today we will do another demo reading of the rave psychology in the human design body graph. Now this one is very fun and special because, well, for one, it's a reflector, which is the rarest of the four design types. And for two, I've been specifically requested to include information from the unconscious side of things. And as a 1-3 profile, I really appreciate being asked about that from another 1-3 profile. And so just to hop on in, this 1-3 has to do with the first line over here in the personality Sun and the personality Earth. This first line is that of an investigator. For you see, the first line begins with fear, and then it investigates to arrive at the bottom, at the foundation, and to comprehend how things function to eliminate the fear. For we only fear what we do not know, and once we know and comprehend, the fear is not so there, it's not so strong. And so on the unconscious half of this profile, there is the third line from the design Sun and the design Earth. And see, this third line is very different from the first line. It's still part of the personal destiny geometry, and so there's this deep orientation around one's personal destiny and their own direction in life, rather than the transpersonal connection that has a lot of karma connecting to other people. This is a personal destiny. And so this third line, unconscious, this is the most mutative line of all. This third line is at the very top of the lower trigram, and it is pushing up towards the roof. It is always going towards the ceiling. It is going towards the boundary. It is going towards the limit. It is going towards mutation. You see, this third line learns through what is called trial and error. And essentially what that means is the third line goes towards the limit in every way it can, and then, oops, there's a mistake. And that was the perception of the limit. That was the learning experience of knowing where the boundary is from direct experience. And so the key element here from the unconscious that is going to impact everything that the conscious personality has to deal with is that this third line is mutative. It can rub people the wrong way. It can learn through trial and error. There can be lots of mistakes involved. And so there is this capacity to eternally pick oneself up again and try again. This third line can be very resilient when it's aligned through its type strategy and inner authority. And so most type strategies, most inner authorities, they come out from definition. However, in this body graph, you can see every single one of the 9 energy centers are undefined. There is no definition involved. And so from Ra's description, there was no inner authority here. He termed it as lunar authority, essentially. And so there is the reliance on the moon as a powerful guiding force, as a reliable cycle in one's experience as a reflector. For you see, the moon travels around this wheel of Dharma, this mandala, often called the zodiac, and it goes through the same order every time. And so as the moon goes through its cycles, the reflector has something consistent that they can see over time. And so instead of the strategy being born out of definition, the strategy is born out from waiting 28 days, waiting this cycle of the moon, and allowing, similar to the emotional solar plexus definition, inner authority or type strategy, there is this focus around waiting. And this is similar for all of us, truly. The key is to wait. And what are we waiting for? In the reflector type, we're waiting for the moon and this long-term cycle. So the most important element here that I see personally is not pressuring yourself to make decisions. Allowing things to take a month or longer to know what's right. Allowing yourself to not rush and, I have to know right now, and if it's not right now, it's never. So when somebody pressures you towards it's now or never, my recommendation is generally choose never. However, each moment is unique. It's nice to see what happens. And so we have the 38 and the 39 on the personality side here. This 38 is a fighter who struggles towards what they believe in. And the 39 is individual provocation of the spirit. Are there abundance blockages? They will show up, whether it's within you or someone else. And this 38, the way in which those provocations occur is coming through the 38. That's how they're grounded in the personality, and that's fighting for what you believe in. So we have somebody who, let's take a peek in here. Obstruction and disengagement, the ability to disengage with things that one cannot fight for, allows them to put forth the effort and to fight for what they truly believe in, what fits their qualifications. And so what environment is this person going to be in? This person who's willing to fight for what they believe in and disengage from what doesn't matter. On the south node, we're looking at the 35. This is the ability to say no. This is the I've had enough and we're moving on now. So this first line, the line of humility. So we see that we could come from an environment that can find humility and know how to say, nope, that's not a problem. I've had enough of that. And the environment is moving towards the fifth line, the fifth gate in the first line. Perseverance in the waiting of fixed rhythms. The ability to persevere in the fight. And so you see, the thing about this is that we began with the sun and the earth, and the sun and earth make up the inner character of this being. The nodes represent the environment that character is within. And so we have somebody who fights for what they believes in and disengages from what they don't, in an environment of humility going towards perseverance. And so as this person is going along that journey, always being influenced by this unconscious half, by this third line pushing into things, bumping into things, this 48th gate is the gate of depth. This 21st gate is a gate of control. So this person has an unconscious design that has some ability to take control of things and to bite through tough problems and get through to the other side. They also have an unconscious depth that could be informing their ability to control things and push through. And so that's all through the unconscious mutative element, this third line. And so it's not something this person can really identify with necessarily. The depth comes out from the vehicle. The capacity to control things comes from the vehicle. It's not from the personality side. It's not from the side of easily identifiable, yeah, I can take control, that's not a problem. Yeah, I have a lot of depth, I know all this kind of stuff, and if you ask me questions, I can respond to you. That's what it sounds like if it's on the personality side. However, here on the unconscious, the vehicle itself, all of a sudden something is said and it's like, oh, whoa. Something is done and it's like, whoa, I didn't know I had that in me. And that's all in alignment with disengaging from what one doesn't believe they can fight for. And so along this journey of fighting for things that one believes in and disengaging from what one doesn't, from this outer path of humility into perseverance, there is a specific resonance map down here, the personality resonance map. And this shows what is the differentiation potential for this being in a very specific way. And to open it up, we'll open it up with the moon. For the moon operates as the focal point that opens up the entrance to this horizontal, this vertical, and this diagonal. It's what opens up the doorway into this whole square. And so it's in the 9th gate, in the 5th line. This is the faith found in focus. There are details, and this person can have a resonance towards focusing in on the details, knowing which details are worthy of faith, knowing what details you can truly believe in, that are universally applicable. And by honoring the faith in universally applicable ideas and details, there is this potential to open up towards the Mars. This is the specific mutation coming through this person. There is the energy of dispersion in sexuality and the one-night stand. And so this is a very controversial line. What does it mean to have a one-night stand? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? This person can bring a whole new perspective on what that actually means. And it wouldn't necessarily be something they're talking about and communicating. It could be, if that's what they're fighting for. However, the element here is through living of the life, there is a mutation coming to this notion of the one-night stand, of sexuality, relationships, and how to disperse one's energy, the ways in which one breaks down boundaries and finds intimacy. There's a whole new mutation. There's a whole new way of being coming through this person around that sexuality. And so what stabilizes that radical sexuality potential? It's the 30. The 30. Recognition of feelings, the clinging fire, and the line of enforcement. So this gate 30 has a lot to do with desire. And the recognition of desire, the recognition of feelings, and the enforcement of correct action in those feelings. If you feel this way, then you really should act on it. If you feel that way, you really shouldn't do anything about it. You know, knowing the difference between one or the other and being able to live that out in their life. Something else about the 30, you know, this discipline, the judge, or the restraint. This 30 is the gate of fate, the gate of things are beyond our control, and life will give us what it gives us. And so this person has a 6-line relationship with fate, meaning that they probably have a good conception of how fate works within themselves. Now, may or may not be a clear or easy to communicate thing. However, their own ability to perceive the fact that we are not in control here, that things happen the way they happen, regardless of what we think about it, that's built into the vehicle. It's built into the personality, so they can see that. And that's what holds them together. That's what holds their sexuality together. For if they're truly enforcing genuine right action when it comes to feeling about things, then they'll be able to have correct one-night stands, for instance, and avoid incorrect ones that could bring harm. For you see, this is all about not escaping, but no longer being limited by homogenized ideals of what is right and wrong. Because for you, there's something unique, and it's not the same as anybody else who's alive. And so next up, I'm going to look at the Uranus. So this is the path that this person is taking. This is similar to the environment of the nodes, except for it's more of the perceived direction along this unique side track, or personal unique track. And it's the 54 in the 6th line. Selectivity in ambition, also called the marrying maiden in the classical the classical I Ching. And so this gate of ambition and selectivity, this means that this person is going through a path of ambition in a way that has karma connecting to many other people. And to top it all off, as I enter into the next step, well, rather than that, as I give a glimpse of the next step, there is 54 in the personality Neptune. This gives misinformation. So not only is this person on the path of ambition, this is the path towards transformation, towards rising up the hierarchy and establishing material stability. Not only are they on that path, they also have a misinformation field on that path. And so for this person, it is extremely important to not worry about the thoughts and the words and the judgments and the misinformation from other people of your ambition. The only way to know how ambitious to be and what to be ambitious is about is to wait for your lunar authority to give you clarity, I suppose, is the way to put that. similar to that emotional system, waiting for clarity, waiting for the lunar awareness to give you the information you need to know where to go, to know what ambition is true and what ambition might be attempting to prove yourself to other people based off their misinformation. For you see, this open heart center here is occupied with proving itself to other people or receiving validation from other people. And so their misinformation about your ambition could really derail your whole thing if you pressure yourself into behaving now based on their information and what they have to say and what they think. So long as you wait those 28 days, so long as you can wait, as long as you can wait, you'll have the necessary information to see where the cycle is going and what's correct for you or not. And so continuing on this diagonal pathway that I've been moving through, we lastly have personality Pluto in the 43-5. See, personality Pluto gives the unique truth. This thing that's so far away and yet right there close to your grasp. I believe that is truly the following of inner authority and type strategy that allows us the opportunity to arrive at and reach and realize, to recognize and live this truth. And so the truth here that could become realized in this life is progression through insight, breaking through of mental barriers with universal practicality towards establishing a new order of insight. You know, it's like a new paradigm of thinking, a new paradigm of seeing things. We cannot solve problems created within the same level of consciousness that they have been created. And so by breaking through and using your progression, by witnessing your progression and honoring that ambition, new insight can arrive that brings about a new paradigm. And isn't that beautiful? This fifth line has a lot of transpersonal karma. There's universal application that strangers can pick up on and be influenced by. This insight that can be found eventually in the life by waiting out that 28-day cycle for decision making, by taking one's time, truly. And not listening to the misinformation field from others. For this misinformation field is actually part of a diamond of stability. What I have been talking about first is this diagonal movement here. And this diamond is a bit different. This diagonal is about differentiation. This is about the very unique pathway that you can see through the lines and exist within awareness in a new way and share something new. And that's this diagonal. The diamond, on the other hand, is about stability. This is about interacting with other people in a more homogenized or reliable or earthly way rather than almost otherworldly, which we find in the diagonal. In this diamond, we begin with communication, which is the 56 in the third line. This forms the wanderer and alienation through stimulation, the ability to be alone and the ability to recognize that you're different from others as part of the communication that comes through along the wandering journey. And so this isolation, this alienation, what kind of values are being communicated through that? Well, it's the 8 in the first line. This is honesty of contribution, which holds us together. And so naturally you see a little paradox there. How can you have the communication of alienation and the value of holding together? Well, you see, each person has their own potential for honesty. And by giving their contribution with honesty, despite being alienated, we can hold ourselves together because we've been honest and we've given our contribution, and other people can see our piece. And thus we have a chance to share it. And so we have this stimulating wanderer that's communicating from an alienation of, yeah, I'm different from the rest of you, and here is my honest, unique contribution. And there's a rule involved there. There's a rule of the 18 in the third line, the zealot of correction, working on what has been spoiled. So what is the true law of this unique contribution, this honesty? Is to work on your shit, is to do your homework, take care of yourself, bathe, have hygiene, breathe, be present, work on what has been spoiled. You see, we can correct the mistakes of the past, and that's the rule here, this zealotry towards correcting. Oh, we've made a mistake and we can do better. We can do better, it's okay. Not to prove it to somebody else, simply because we can correct and go forward in a good way. We don't have to be limited by the generational trauma our parents gave us, and their parents gave them, and their parents gave them, and on and on and on. We're not limited by that anymore if we can correct and work on what has been spoiled. If we can communicate honestly our unique truth and own the fact that we're different. We are aliens on this planet in that sense. None of us are like the other animals. We're very different. And the last piece here of the stability field is that misinformation around ambition. And so the way in which that rule of rising up, that rule of correcting things, rather, that rule of fixing your own problems and being able to communicate honestly as a true value, there are people who will spread misinformation around that. Like you're not correcting the right thing, or you're doing this too strongly. People will have all kinds of misinformation around the way in which you are here to rise up. And it simply doesn't matter. Because you've got an unconscious third line, deeply mutative, always pushing towards the boundary and the next step. And by retaining your composure as a first line personality, for you see, this is the way the first line can meet with fate in a good way, is retaining composure. You see, this unconscious third line, this is going up against all kinds of things. And the only way that unconscious can meet fate is through acceptance or resignation. It is what it is. And the first line conscious is going to be composed. If you can retain that composure over time, like, yep, I can't answer that right now, ask me again in a month. Or at least give me 10 days, or whatever it is that you feel you need. And experiment with it, see what works. The fascinating thing here is if we look at the nodes of the unconscious, we see the fourth line. So there is an environment of friendship. There's an unconscious environment of connectivity and networking, of influence, whether positive, friendly, or negative, mean. There is that environmental potential coming through that whole journey of disengaging from what you don't believe in and fighting for the foundation of what you truly do believe in. Every single energy center undefined, reflector type. Once again, this is very rare. Only around 2% of the population or less have this type. And this is why the inner authority and the type strategy for the reflector comes out of the moon. And it's why Ra called it a lack of inner authority. My perception still sees it as inner authority because I can see the entire outer world as a reflection of my own inner world. And so everything outside of me is actually within me, even the moon. You know, I have my moon, you have your moon. And so by honoring your moon and taking your time, you have the chance to truly fight for what you believe in on the path to rising up through ambition to finally realize unique insight that can give a universal application for who knows how many people, where and when they may live. So long as there is the honoring of this 18-3 and the 36, this personality Saturn in the 36, this is possible to really have this relationship with fate that is able to recognize and enforce right action in response to fate. It's possible because one has zealotry towards their correction, towards working on what has been spoiled, towards caring about yourself, towards self-respect. so that others can see that as a reminder of, wow, I can respect myself too. It's the only possible way to interact with fate in this design. And then we can have a new insight coming through for so many to see. So I suppose that's about all I have to say on that chart for the moment. I hope that you've received something from this and that you're having a wonderful day. If you're watching this and you'd like to learn more, feel free to reach out. This is great fun for me. I love exploring these topics. And yeah, we'll see you again soon. Ta-ta.